All right, we're back. Think and Link, another Thursday, another month. Two absolutely amazing guests we have on the stage, and a testament to the audience that they draw based on their backgrounds and what they've done. And we're going to hear a lot about that. That's going to be amazing. First off, I want to, I should do the drawing first. I'm looking at the team and they're saying yes or no. Drawing first. Okay, so we're doing this new thing. Capsule's 25 years old. Feel free to applause. 25 freaking years. That's a lot of time, let me tell you. I started it with Brian when I was 10. He was 12. He is older. Where's Brian? He's not even here, is he, to get grief from me? I get to do this in front of a live audience. It's great. So we have done posters around our values. So we have 6 values, and we've designed, our inspired team has designed 4 of them thus far. There's Brandon looking at, showing them off with his nice tattoo as well. That's a fresh new tattoo. So we're going to do a drawing that is in here, and I'll have you each pick one for 2 different people. I know. A little awkward. I have to do this so it looks like a real drawing and it's not like we're giving it to certain people that we really like. Who do we have?
If I say this wrong, let me know, but Sasha Sweeney Newman.
Awesome.
All right. Woohoo. All right.
You can walk over. You can get your. You can wait. You can,
come on down.
Now we're at Think and Link. Now this is the fun we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
She might just take that off the wall. I mean, I'd watch her. I'd watch her. I have a single name like Madonna, but it's Julian. Oh yeah, my kind of guy.
Awesome.
I like it.
All right. So thoroughly enjoy those posters. Hang them up. Socialize them wherever you want. Love that. So we put this on once a month. It started in our kitchen in the North Loop. It was a French style salon. Well, we didn't know really what a French style salon was, but when we put it together, Judy Bell saw it. If everyone knows Judy Bell, not here tonight, but she's the greatest ever. And she said, "Oh, Aaron, you're doing a French style salon." And I said, "Oh, we are." And we did. And then it evolved into this and this wonderful thing we do here once a month. And thank you all for showing up and for our audience via LinkedIn for showing up. We have 2 sponsors that I need to mention. I cannot forget to mention our sponsors because I get in trouble for that. Do we have sponsors? Yes, we have sponsors somewhere in here. Yes. So we have Lake One, which is Ryan Rudd. And each time we bring up Ryan Rudd, we give him a little ribbing. Look up Ryan Rudd on LinkedIn, please do. He's the shyest person. He's been a sponsor of this for like over a year and a half, and he's shown up once to our events. Now it's just a joke. We just keep going with it every time. So look up Ryan Rudd on LinkedIn and link in with Ryan Rudd, 2 U's on the Rudd. And he's amazing. And then I have also my co-host, Kitty Hart, who's here. Should we announce the news that you're retiring from the stage? I know. Look at that. Kitty Hart she was here when we first started it, and then she became my co-host in this form like 2 or 3 years ago or something like that. Yeah. She can tell when I'm going to go off the rails and cuts me off, which is really good. Yeah, and then RSB Architects, which is the building you're in. They designed this Greenbelt Brewery building. I refer to the Castle to Beer, and it's amazing how many people have been here and go, "Wow, I've driven by this but never seen it." It's an amazing space to be in. And then we're upstairs, Capsule. We're a special projects agency. We work with clients like Sitka, which maybe don't know or do know, Hydro Flask, Quick Trip, brands like that all across the country. So that's us. And I'm going to hand it over to Kitty, who's going to introduce our guests.
Wonderful.
Take it away.
One of the things that I love about Think and Link is the pairing concept. You always put together great pairings. So we're excited to welcome Gail and Amber today on here. So let's first start with introductions. For people who in the room who don't know each of you and your backgrounds, why don't we start with just a brief introduction and overview of your corporate backgrounds.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here and really fun to be here with Gail. We've known each other for, I don't know, a long time.
Let's just say over half our lives,
years,
and we met when
years.
we were 10.
Yes. Yes, I'm the chief marketing officer at Winnebago Industries. So we have RVs, boats, and a lithium ion battery business. So really fun outdoor recreation business that is based here in the Twin Cities. We moved our headquarters from Iowa a few years ago, but I've really spent my career in consumer brand marketing across categories. So I was at General Mills for, gosh, 13 years or so. So I see some great familiar faces from there. And that's kind of what originally brought me to the Twin Cities. Then I went to Bridgestone. So I had tires, Bridgestone and Firestone tire brands, which tires, you may not think they're sexy, but they actually have a lot of things that you can talk about. That was really fun to just get a chance to work on a completely different category in durable goods and really to understand a lot more about digital marketing. And that was in Nashville. So I moved to Nashville, which was a really fun city to be in. Then I went to Newell Brands, which used to be Newell Rubbermaid. So I had housewares for a couple years. So I had Rubbermaid, Calphalon cookware, Food Saver, Ball mason jars. So a really fun portfolio of housewares brands. And then left there and moved back to the Twin Cities to take the job at Winnebago Industries. So have been fortunate to work on some really big brands, smaller brands. I really think about both general management and marketing. So have had a lot of fun across the board. Outside of work, I'm married. I have 3 kids. I have twin boys that are 17 and my daughter's 14. So 3 teenagers at home I could probably talk for an hour just about that, although I don't think I'm an expert in that area whatsoever. So, but really glad to be here today and look forward to sharing some insights.
Wow, I cannot believe I remember they were born. Oh my God, I gotta look closer at the Christmas card, Amber. So Gail Peterson, unlike Amber, I have lived in the Twin Cities since undergrad, and I was the person who was coming here for 2 years. That plan did not work out, and you'll learn, I don't really have a career plan. And so people always say, how did you get to where you are? And the answer is, I don't really know, but I do have some guiding principles that I'd be happy to share that I have used, not to say you should replicate those because they don't always work, okay? But I started with Amber. Well, you were a class ahead of me at General Mills, and I was there for a number of years, all marketing jobs, former boss up front here in Kim, salty snacks, baby, go Chex Mix. And worked mainly in marketing roles. I did have a job in central marketing. I had one job in sales. While I was there, I left there to go to EcoLab. And I was at EcoLab for 8 years, started in their healthcare business. And then, actually, I had an onboarding strategy role first. I left 30 weeks pregnant, that's not really your learning moment for onboarding, just in case anybody's considering it, but that's what I did. And then came back into the healthcare business and then became the global CMO that in there, I gotta get new things like communication, sustainability. It's a pretty big remit for that role there. I left EcoLab in September to pursue board work. So I am currently on the Sun Country board and hoping to get some more boards. We'll see, but enjoying time with my 3 kids. They are 12, 10, and 8. And, I figured, hey, right now they're still willing to talk to me. So this is a good time for me to try to spend time with them because I know it's coming because I remember how I was at 14. And I am thrilled to be here. And now that I know it's your last one, God, we got to bring it, Amber. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to those early General Mills days. And when you think about those early years of your career, what was it like working there? What did you learn that you have brought into your leadership?
Okay. Well, I would say, General Mills has some great talent. And I mean that in kind of 2 main ways. There's a lot of really good leaders. And I think you should always be refining your leadership style and growing and developing. But at General Mills, you get almost like a Cliff's Notes version because you get to see a lot of very exceptional leaders handle a lot of sometimes tough situations. And so you can learn by observing. And because it's so based in Golden Valley, here. I mean, it's not a decentralized kind of organization. It's very centralized. So you have access to that. And there are a lot of people that I learned from what to do, what not to do, what motivated me, what didn't. There were a lot of people that worked for me that I also got to learn from, because it is a high feedback culture, which can be good and bad. Right? Everybody said, we say feedback's a gift in my household, and my kids then tell me they have a present for me. And I just like, I'm like, oh God. But you just, I was trained, just smile through it and then go in your car and cry later. But I learned a lot from those people. I also think, I mean, it's like marketing 101, 201, and 301. So many in the audience know Mr. Mark Addix, who is a legend in our industry. And he had something called First Wednesdays. And what he would do is you would hear stories of the different brands. If they weren't on your floor, you might not know what was happening with Betty Crocker. Right. And he would pull out the stories and multiple examples and what we could all learn from them. He'd also bring external examples of what to do and what not to do. And, especially when you're more junior, just seeing creative and business situations over and over and over, you're just training yourself in your instincts. And so I think without a doubt, I carried that forward to EcoLab. Even today on the Sun Country board, you have a kind of growth mindset that gets built over repetition. And that definitely was my first 15 years.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I almost took it for granted a little bit because I went there so junior in my career in terms of just the development that we got there and that they invested in the development of the people there. I think for me, there's also the idea that they really have the brand management model where you're doing marketing and running the business. And I think as I've gone to different organizations, they may see marketing as like a cost center, or, oh, you're over here making a website, like versus really thinking about it's driving demand, it's driving your top line, it's a critical part of your business. And if you're not winning there, you're not going to win in the market, which I sort of just took for granted, I think, when I was at General Mills, but as I've gone to other places. So I think that was really good learning. And if you really, even if you work in an agency or, where you don't have P&L ownership, I think understanding that deeply is helpful because then you're have a lot more credibility with the client or, whatever industry you're in. So I think that's one thing I learned at General Mills. And then, General Mills talks about cross-functional teams and leading teams and people that don't report to you. And I think that's another skill that's critically important no matter where you go. And I'm sure I wasn't great at it when I was in my early 20s. Katie worked on my team for a while, so she can attest to that. But I think getting that experience early where you're also leading teams is something that really has stuck with me throughout my career, what I've worked on. So, looking back, it was, I didn't have ties to Minnesota. I just moved here for the job and people were like, what? It's -20 there. And looking back, I'm so glad that I made that move early in my career because I think it just taught me a lot of skills that are have been useful throughout.
Love that. Yeah, and we can attest, I think the audience can attest that if you've had interactions with General Mills people, they breed a different level of marketer. It's just a level of professionalism that you don't get anywhere else, as a person, as a human being. I think I said this last month, the same kind of conversation. It's fascinating how that is, right? It's not that it's not great from Target, nothing bad about Target, nothing bad about all these others, but there's just a certain culture that it builds and that comes out. It's fascinating. So that you interact with people and there's like good, characters in general, which is cool. You want to ask the next question, Kitty? Okay, the creativity thing. This is a tough one because large established brands with a lot of history and heritage, and you've both been connected to those. How do you foster creativity in those environments? How do you get that out of people, either internal or external? How do you make that happen? Amber, do you want to start? Because you're in a big one right now.
Sure. Well, I think Gail said the phrase growth mindset, and I think that's critical. I think you always need to be learning. If you're in sales, that they'll always be closing. I think in whatever field you're in, the always be learning is a good mantra to have, because if you want to be innovative and bring new ideas, if you're always just surrounding yourself with kind of the same people and the same process that you've always had, I think that's challenging. And there's many ways to do that. There's formal training, there's relationships, there's coming to things like this, there's going to trade shows, there's talking to students or having interns that have a much different view on the world. I mean, I think there's reading books, and sometimes we're like, oh, I'm so busy with my day to day, I don't want to read the next business book or whatever that may be. But I really do think that looking for external inspiration is critically important. And so I think having that learning and growth mindset is one important thing. I think if you work in consumer products, which that all my brands have been consumer, using your product and talking to consumers about your product, which again sounds obvious, but we work in an RV business and some of our people hadn't necessarily RV'd. So we have a program where you can take an RV and take your family out, or we have some travel trailers that are set up where you can go and camp in them. Because if you haven't experienced it yourself, I think it's hard to know how to talk about the benefits, or for product development teams, how to continue to evolve. So I think that's critically important. I also think we do some things like have some tools and rewards. So we have a patent wall in our headquarters where we put up all the patents that we've had, which Chris Craft is a 150-year-old boat brand. We just celebrated 150 years, and the Winnebago RV brand has been around since 1958. So, we have some new brands, but we've also got some brands with rich history, and we have a long history of innovation and patents. So celebrating that legacy, but also recognizing people that have gotten those today, I think also just helps to contribute to a culture of innovation. So I think also having some things like that where you make it just part of your culture is important as well.
I love how you it's company-wide. Creativity is not a department. It can come from anywhere, and which totally fits. Yeah, and you can find very creative accountants, which is dangerous, but creative engineers can be good as long as they are safe with that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
jump in.
No, I think I agree with everything Amber said, and back to your answer to the first question about what you learned at General Mills. I think it's really important you understand what the business needs your brand to do first, right? Sometimes we need you to grow like crazy. Sometimes we need you to be a beachhead to enter a new market, all the things, right? But you need to know what your role is. I also think, agree with Amber. This is where diversity is important. You need people with different views who can tell you what their brand means to them. I think when you do have these large brands, they do have history. That is just go back and look through the history. I remember the rebrand of Betty Crocker. It probably happened 3 times when I was at General Mills, right? But, there was some guy that said, oh, I think all women should have a chocolate cake on the table when I come home from work on a Tuesday at 4:00. And somebody listened to a woman that was like, I do not like to bake, and if I crack an egg, that counts as baking. Right. And so that brand was born, and it got a little bit away from that. It kind of almost became an old brand because it was all about like homemakers. And so they had to kind of go back to that history and really modernize it. But by looking to the past, they got insights for the future. And I think that lends itself to what's your brand's purpose. I think if you know what your brand's purpose is, innovation and creativity is easy. It's hard to get the right purpose, and it does need to reflect your products. It does need to reflect your strategic direction. And if it does that well, it can tell you where you have a right to play and where you don't. But you should put them all out at the table and say, do I have a right to play there? And do I have the capabilities and the team to win in that space? And if you don't, go get them. Because that shouldn't be the end of the conversation. There are so many untapped markets. All people, all walks of life love brands, but we do not distribute our attention and our spending toward all populations equally. But when it comes to the creativity, I think when you have that purpose, it's almost, it becomes a no-brainer where you could go, where you should go. But then I do think as leaders, you need to give people space. I think the key to creativity is getting the right team in place and giving them space and protection for them to play. And knowing that it's not creative if you don't fail at least half the time. And it's not a failure. What did we learn from it? What does this say about our brand? Maybe we've got to tweak our purpose because it should have worked and it didn't. And so to me, I think those are some key kind of leadership components, at least.
Love that. It reminds me of, so we had Christine Marvin from Marvin Windows on. This is probably 2 years ago. And I don't know how many hundreds of years Marvin Windows has been around, but it's been around for a good long time. And she came on and she talked about, we just figured out our purpose. And I wanted to say, what the fuck? What? You just figured out, so we can swear on this one, just so you know. We don't have to,
Was
but
very comfortable. It's just a way to emphasize your point.
it is. I know, just awkward moment. Anyway, I had shock on my face. I'm sure it was just like, what? You just figured out your purpose? How old are you that you just figured that out? And it was something like, we bring light and energy into people's lives. I'm like, that is really elegant. And I'm glad you just figured that out because it does open up things in a really big way, right? We can be more creative with that. And we've talked about this. Purpose is a kind of an abused word. It's been used and abused, but I know that you can continue to come back to it and refine it. That's cool. It's a good way to think about it. Thank you.
So do you have a process around, if you're looking at a new initiative, do you have a process that you go through to make sure that that aligns with your brand purpose?
I mean, this is, you shouldn't put process in a question to me. I'm not known for my process integrity. But I would say, I think, and Amber kind of went there about experiencing the product and the brand. I think everybody on the team just needs to find a way to get the purpose in them. So that, because you don't have time to go through an elaborate. Now, sometimes the process can just be like, it's up on your cube wall. And you're just asking yourself that. I think revisiting your purpose, though, every year is important. And what I do, at General Mills, we used to say, it should reflect your products because that's making it believable. And why do you exist? I have since flipped it to what would the world miss if you didn't exist? I think that's a much higher bar. And you can see how, like, a place like Nike, if Nike didn't exist, you don't get the So Win campaign, right? That's the only shoe company that's going to do something like that. And I don't know what their purpose is. It's probably making somebody like me feel like we can actually be an athlete. I'm no Caitlin Clark, okay? But when I see Caitlin Clark, I'm like, you know what? I have been told I'm too aggressive. I have been told I'm too. And so I am proud to wear Nike. I am less proud to wear other shoe brands. And so I do think you need to revisit it. And so that you can have a process around that. But I really think you need to find a way to get it intrinsic in your team, whether that's an internal and especially any external team. So I think some of my old teams back there, Kelly's kind of like, yeah, you don't know because I had all the process to onboard everybody. But somebody can be responsible for it. It just wasn't me.
Very honest.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, as you think about innovation, you want it to fit with your purpose because that's why you're here and what you're about. We did a lot of work at Winnebago Industries on our corporate purpose, which is maybe a little bit different than a brand purpose, but we landed on elevating every moment outdoors. And that was very intentional. The elevate is because we have premium brands and we actually enable you to enjoy the outdoors, but maybe at a higher level on one of our phenomenal pontoons than, Barletta pontoons than you could on your own. And the every moment is really the end-to-end experience, because if you think about our categories, there's a lot of, I have to store it, I have to tow it, I have to find somewhere to park it, I have to, docking a boat is not easy. There's a lot of challenging moments. So how do we think about every moment? And then outdoors is our context, but there's just so much opportunity in the outdoors because people get wellness, they get mental health, they get physical health, they get memories with family and friends. And so, our belief was about time together outdoors is priceless. And we think our products really enable that. And so I think that has been a mindset shift as we think about all the brands at Winnebago Industries. Now, then how that translates to individual brands, I think they also have to really deeply understand who their consumer target is. So we've done a lot of work on that, on understanding your consumer and really trying to bring the consumer into the innovation process so that when you are going through stage gate or that you're, who is this for? What do they value? And which again, that may sound a little basic, but I think that's an important thing. And again, maybe if you didn't come out of CPG or somewhere where that's ingrained in you, I think that's really important too. So I would put the, what your consumer needs kind of up with your brand purpose as you think about innovating overall.
Has the brand purpose changed for either of your companies? We've had so much change in general in the world over the last few decades. Has it changed?
Well, it did at EcoLab when I came in as a CMO, and actually Christian helped us do it. It not dramatically. Okay, it's always been about protecting. I think it was protecting resources. I can't remember what it was. Okay, but it was saving water, saving people. Basically, is what we do. And we flipped it to make it less. It used to start with what we did. And we flipped it to the outcome of people. We're protecting people and the resources vital to life. And so it was a subtle change, but it was an important one. And we had a tagline that was for internal. And if you asked people at the company, they would have said that was our purpose. And it meant nothing. It was everywhere it matters. It means something to the company because they're in 170 countries and 45 industries, and you've got people all over, and we're at every moment that it matters. That's great for our sales force and our service organization. I had no idea what that meant, right? How do I make a decision out of everywhere it matters? It feels like you're just going to say yes to everything. And there aren't limitless dollars, or so I've been told. So I have been at brands where we did that. Christian and I did it on Cheerios too, that's a tricky one because it's been around forever. But we really, again, made it more people and human centric and said, this is baby's first finger food. This is a moment for families. And historically, we have not reflected all families. We are not making this brand accessible to all families. And out of that is where the Super Bowl ad comes with the interracial family. That wasn't supposed to be an interracial spot, but because we understood our purpose, casting became blind. And so we put the best 3 people in that ad. One happened to be white, one happened to be Black, and one happened to be Gracie, who is the cutest Black little girl you ever done seen. And, and so I do think it's kind of a good and bad thing with CPG. You rotate so much that keeping the team together doesn't happen there. And I do think there is a lot of knowledge that is lost when you do that. Now, the model there, however, was that you would have an agency of record and hopefully that same team that could help onboard you. But I do think that can be a risk because you can flip your purpose so much. And from the outside looking in, if I use your boat 6 times a year and you're changing it every year, I don't even know what you're trying to be to me. I don't see me in you. I just see you changing all the time. So consistency is important, but.
Yeah. Speaking to the agency of record model, which is a fascinating thing I don't know if it's completely broken yet, but it's on its way for sure. And that idea that the agency knows more about the brand than the internal team, which is if you're an investor in that brand, you've got to be kind of angry, right? Because that's a massive intangible asset that someone's outsourced to external agency. Not a good idea, but it's good to see that going away and new models popping up, like Capsule here, right? And small plug, just like yours was a good, nice plug. That was good. Yeah. Okay. We do want to talk about design. We want to say the word design at least once, and because it's an important part of our world. And there was an article in Fast Company recently that said design is dead, which to be clear, I loathe anytime someone says something is dead, because usually it's like, are you a moron? It's not dead. And even this writer, he immediately pulled back and said, well, it's not dead necessarily. Oh, I see. You're going for clickbait. Anyway, let's talk about design and your interactions with it. And where is it showing up in organizations? Is it going deeper in? Is it still important? Tell me a little bit about that, Amber.
Yeah, I think it's critically important for us. And so you think about RVs. How do RVs look today? Not that different from when they looked in 1960, frankly. And so as we look ahead and attracting newer consumers, younger consumers, consumers of all backgrounds, we have to think about what do those consumers want. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for us to really rethink what the experience could be. And so in the near term, there's more, I'll call them, closer in changes you can make. Like, how do you make it more aerodynamic so it tows better, or how do you make it easier to use, or how is the function better? Because think about it, it's like a house on wheels. It's a really small space. So critically, how you use space, how there's storage, all of that's critically important. But then over time, what if you had a trailer that almost like towed itself, like that was more like going along. And so then you could tow it without a giant truck, for instance. I mean, I think there's just so many consumer opportunities. And so that all comes through product design and industrial design. And so for us, yes, I think it's critically important. And if the RV industry doesn't accelerate, then we're going to get left behind because we're competing for somebody's leisure dollar that they can spend on vacations, a cruise, a second home, so we have to provide value and products that excite and delight them. And so we've doubled down on our focus there. We opened up, we have an advanced technology group that we call ATG, and we opened up an innovation center that's separate from our main headquarters. It's actually here in Savage. And it works across all our businesses, so boats, RVs, and power solutions, and they work on a lot of upstream innovation. So, we're a public company, and when you're beholden to the quarterly results, you might not always work on big, game-changing transformational innovation because that takes longer to incubate and may have capital, and it's just more challenging than something you might put out like a new floor plan. I mean, you need both. But I think, investing in our innovation center where we've got designers who work on these things, I think is critically important. So we still have a ways to go, but for sure, definitely not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I mean, mobile homes. I mean, it's almost like you're dealing with architects, right? You could hire RSP to design, it's that kind of space, which is really rather cool. There's so much to be designed, so much to consider, so many details within that experience. That's good to hear. It's not dead there. Not that it's dead anywhere. Gail.
Yeah, well, and in case you don't want to do an RV, you could get on a Sun Country airline flight and go down to Cancun for
Oh,
69.
no.
I'm just kidding.
RVing is affordable.
We're in trouble.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean, obviously, whenever you see a headline like that, the answer is always no. It's kind of like, it's when your parent says like, were you bad? Are you entitled? Like the answer to that question is not, yes, mom, I'm super entitled. Like, so obviously the answer is no. I think the challenge design has, because I agree with everything Amber said, it's obviously critical to marketing. I think the challenge it has is it's critical to so many aspects of a company. It can be RD&E, it can be HR, it can be supply chain, it can be insights, agency. It's everywhere. And I think the reason it's come up recently in conversation is because there was an influx of chief design officers, right? Where we tried to kind of pull it out of all these different kind of functions. And maybe those people had the right background. I don't know if the design work was, but some of those have gone away. There's still a lot more than there were 30 years ago, right? But I think you can be a great designer, but not maybe a great business seller of your idea. And so I think a lot of times it resides in marketing only because marketers are good at saying like, here's the whole strategy and there are 85 components of it, but look at the sales growth. Like we go right to the P&L. And I think I have a friend he's the head art creative for Jordan Brands. And he's like, I sometimes get questions like, you made this slight change. What's the ROI on this slight change? And my counsel to him is, it's your fault you got that question, right? Because you weren't putting it into a broader context. And so, whenever we talk, that's, he mentors me on some stuff. I mentor him on some stuff. But I think that's really what it's about. This conversation has a lot more to do with organizational structure and the changes over the last 5 years, which is a ridiculous conversation to have because businesses need all functions. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there. And you need to work well together, regardless of where you sit in the organization. I say this to marketers. If you're a marketing associate, I do not care. You're expected to bring it. If you're a CMO and you don't happen to report to the CEO, you got to still bring it. And so to me, it's not dead. And it's a little bit of like watching kids have a tantrum. I'm sorry. I got an 8-year-old. It was a rough day getting her on the bus today. So there's some baggage I'm shedding.
Top of mind.
Should I just go lay on the couch?
Yeah, you could. We could talk to you from there. Little therapy session. Oh, that's funny. I totally appreciate that perspective on it, that it's just deeper in the organization. It shows up in a lot of different places. Everything is designed, and they perhaps ran into the barrier of, the financial side of it, the ROI of design and trying to prove that and have a financial mindset in design. Yeah, I can see that being a big challenge. Kitty.
Talking about innovation, how far out are your respective companies looking at innovation?
Well, as I mentioned with our innovation center, we do need to be looking far out at disruptive innovation, but we also need a pipeline of innovation across each of our product lines so they can keep generating growth and attract new consumers. And then we have to be thinking about even new business models. So if you look at like boat clubs, for instance, like if I don't want to own a boat, can I buy like a fractional ownership where I can just go, the boat's ready for me. I don't have to deal with a lot of the things I was mentioning earlier. And so I think the challenge on some of those things is that if it is truly a new business model, you've got to figure out how are we going to fund it? How are we going to make it work? You know, and in a public company, you have to think through those things. But at Winnebago Industries, we definitely put a purpose that was broad enough where we think we can fit into some of those larger, newer, different things that still aligns very closely with the brands. But I think thinking about innovation and sort of what's almost a renovation, what's an expansion, and then what's transformational, and trying to have a pipeline where you think about having some of all of those things. I think it's more challenging when you get into the transformational because that there's probably more of a chance that it could fail or it's something radically different. But I think that's a good way to at least gauge what you're working on and prioritizing things. Because if you're only working on the close-in innovation, that's when you get disrupted. And or you know, if you've read The Innovator's Dilemma or some of those other things, that's when somebody else comes and eats your lunch. So I think we try to look at all of those things, and that's probably been true in all the businesses I've worked in. I mean, even in tires, like tires haven't changed a lot either. If you think about the fundamental, you still get a flat tire, like that's still a problem. So, which for B2B applications, a flat tire on like a huge, Caterpillar truck that works in mining can cost you, hundreds of thousands of dollars a day if that goes out. So how do you think about smart tires and predictive maintenance and things that you can do? So I think really any category you're in, you have to be thinking about all of those things.
Yeah, that's fascinating, especially on the tire side. You don't really think about tires that way. You're like, are my tires flat? That's the only thing I'm thinking about. But the massive construction side of it's cool. The connection to the car industry and seeing like a prototype car of what's going to happen. I'm assuming that happens in RVs where you do one that's like a futuristic thing where people go, we could take that or that or that. Do you do that?
Yeah, we've done a couple all electric RVs. And they've actually, the second model we did, we put like a dozen of them out into the market and had consumers actually use them and give us feedback and diaries and everything. We don't have a commercially available electric RV yet. I think that's something that will come. I think we wanted to make sure that we're going at the speed that the consumer wants. And then if you think about range anxiety with your car or whatever, you don't want to be out in the middle of the forest and your charge runs out. So there's some things we need to do from an infrastructure standpoint, and even we've also done an electric concept boat. So think about if you're in a lake, not having to lug gas down to your dock, not having to have that engine noise and smell. Like if you're fishing, I mean, there's a lot of great consumer benefits that you can get from that. So we have done, prototypes there as well. I think speaking about innovation, then how do you actually bring that to market and commercialize it, and what's the right model there? So I think that's what we're working through now. And electrification has just some added challenges, but it's exciting times as you think about new things that you can deliver to really change the category.
Cool. Even certainly on water, that's got a slight challenge there, but cool. Gail, do you want to answer the innovation question from 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, I don't have a pipeline right now because I'm not at EcoLab anymore, but I agree 100% with what Amber said. A healthy pipeline is one that's a mix of all of those things. I think the only thing I would add, and you were alluding to it, is what gives the team, again, space is innovating under an umbrella that is an enduring need to your customer. Because you're going to get some of it wrong, but there is close in and far out innovation all within an enduring need. And I always recommend go to something you can't even imagine today, start at the end and breadcrumb your way back to today. I think sometimes the issue people have, because you're a public company, what can we launch tomorrow? What can the sales force go sell tomorrow? And then you try to build off of that. And, maybe you had to wait a quarter, but if you start at the end and you come back, I guarantee the thing that's a quarter later is going to make up for the quarter you missed, because it's going in the right direction. And it's, again, building on your purpose and why you're there and and how your customers see you, the problems you're solving. At EcoLab, some of the problems we solve are like, use less resources, productivity, increased yield. There is no business in the world that's like, you know what, in 10 years, I'd like to be less productive, use more resources, and have less yield. And so if you can stick to those things, okay, you're going to make some mistakes, but you're going to have a lot of doubles, at least along the way. So that's the only thing I'd add.
Awesome. We have to bring up AI. And I think this is our last question before we turn to the audience. I know. I don't want to bring it up either, but I feel like everybody's like, what do they think of AI? I don't want to talk about AI, but it's all over the frickin' place and we can't ignore it. It's going to happen. Somebody out there let it out, that old company thing with the open AI. Anyway, perspective as it relates to marketing and the role AI you think will play in marketing, as a tool, as a perspective. Gail, do you want to start?
Oh, me.
Some wisdom.
It's going to change everything. I think we've had a lot of marketers have always absorbed technological developments. Okay. I remember I was at General Mills and I got my laptop. I used to leave it at the company docked. What was that about? We would like lock it up and then I'd get sick the next day and I'd drive in to go pick up my laptop. So, we've all, I didn't say I was a smart 22-year-old. But so we've always absorbed, technological advancements. I think what's different about AI is it touches everything in marketing, whether it's communication, conversion, experience. If marketers are about the intersection of consumer needs and market demands, it impacts both sides of that house, and the pace of change is just really, really high. And so it affects how we work. It affects your lives personally, right? And so, my advice is, just like has been true of all other technological advancements, embrace it, right? It gets you off the white page faster if you're a copywriter. It gets you to that first image faster through ideogram or whatever the one is people are using now. And then apply your very good judgment to what you're seeing. And as opposed to looking at the first draft and saying, that's not it. It's probably more on you than it is on AI. Your prompt was probably wrong. Your ego's probably in the way with a not invented here. I was asked to do a keynote speech 2 weeks before. And so AI wrote my speech and I read it. I was like, this does not sound like me at all. And then, I improved my prompt. And I said, this is an example of a speech I've given. Say it in this tone, please. Keep working and use it on real stuff. Would be my advice. Carve out time. Remember when email happened? We used to have to carve out time to get caught up on email. Now it's like attached to you because it's on your phone, but use it when you need it. Here's the great thing. You can ask it. I think I shared this with you. Last weekend, I asked ChatGPT, is there a tool that can take a recipe and just put it into Instacart? And there's a ChatGPT plugin. And, it took me 30 minutes. Yes, it took me 30 minutes. It was like 35 seconds. And my grocery shopping was done. And I found out and then I said, is there one that's even better if it's a recipe from my mom? And there is. I'm going to try it this weekend. A recipe cloud.
Is there one that cooks the meal?
No, see, I actually like cooking, but yes, there will be maybe one day robots. I don't know, but I just think it's not coming. It's here. So just get on it, get over ourselves, and let's just embrace it like we have all other tools for the history of our craft.
Amber.
Yeah, I think your point about, especially from a just GPT standpoint and how are we at least getting some experience with it, I think that's a great place to start. Your point about giving good prompts, I think that's kind of a skill in and of itself. So that's good to have. For us, there's so much data we can get. We actually launched a Winnebago Connect where you can control a lot of things from your phone for your RV. So you can set the temperature, you can set the lights to turn on at the right time. If you want to leave your pet there while you're gone, you can set the pet finder. And so all of that feeds back data to us. But how do we actually then use that data to feed into product development and other things that we're going to do? So that's an example of an area where anywhere where you can feed in a lot of data and use that to help, that's an example of one of the things we're working on. I think it's it's a big step change to go all the way. So I think kind of to what you were saying, how do you kind of get moving on some things? I mean, if you search for something today, the results, instead of just sending you to all the places, the results are like answers your question for you. And so everybody's going to search by asking a question and they just expect that to get answered. So what are you doing to make sure that the content you have is going to be the one that's there, answering the question? And I think that's an easy thing that we all need to think about. So personalization is a huge opportunity on knowing what people have bought before. And I mean, that's started, but that can be taken to a whole new level. And then just cost savings from creative development. And I mean, I know there's a lot of debate about replacing humans with AI, and speaking of design or actors or, other things. And I still think you need a human touch. And, I think Microsoft calls it co-pilot for a reason, because you need somebody to help mind the ship. But for us, we're at least trying to get our employees to experiment and start learning some things. And I think letting the whole company do that is a great idea, because all the ideas aren't going to come from some small little innovation group. Like, we want more people to be able to use it. And I think some people are more concerned about proprietary data and legal. And I mean, I think you do have to think through those things, but if you're being so worried about compliance and legal, I think you're not unleashing the power of your broader organization to start testing and learning. And so we're focused there, and customer engagement and answering questions. I mean, I mentioned our products are hard to use. And so if you had your kind of personal assistant that can help you use things, or if you have a problem or how to winterize my RV, having that all served up to you. So that's another area that we think has a lot of opportunity moving forward.
Awesome. Next month, an AI is going to replace me. They're going to be here and just ask the question. That's how it's going to happen. We don't actually generate our questions via AI. I probably should do that. I just go through your backgrounds. That takes a lot of time. I should just, no, but I appreciate the nuances of where it's coming into our lives, and that we, definitely have to adopt, learn, and figure it out. So we typically turn to our audience for questions next. Kitty, do you want to? Anybody have a question for our guest? Thank you, Kim.
Hey, Gail, at the very beginning, you said that you had guiding principles that you use to make decisions in your life. And I don't know, maybe you've already touched on some of those, but if there's any others that you haven't, would love to hear those. And Amber, the same. Would love to hear what do you hold dear in terms of as life lessons?
Ooh,
Former speaker on the stage too, right there.
just
Kim.
went deep. Well, I was a child. No, just kidding. I'm not going to go all the way back there. So I've always had a model of, you're a woman on a panel, you always get the work-life balance question, right? Always. And so I don't like it, because I think of a scale, like if I'm a better mom, I'm worse at work. And it just felt like it was a zeros. I don't do well with zero-sum ideas. And so I always had an image of juggling balls. And every year after Christmas, it doesn't matter how many balls you have that you're juggling, but you just have to know how many you have and what they're called. And then the most important question you have to ask yourselves is which ones are rubber and which ones are glass. And so for me, the glass ball has always been my family. And so I know if I drop that, it will shatter. At some point in your career, there's a lot of effort to make you not believe this, but your career is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. Okay. And so that has always been something, because it does change. Like, okay, I'll be honest, health is kind of a glass ball now. It was not when I was 25. Right. So different things can change. And then from a career move standpoint, I only thought about three things, as well as my husband said. He's like, you're the most successful, unambitious person I've ever met. Because I was an early marketer for you. And I remember in our intro, me telling you, Kim, I didn't even think I wanted to be a marketing manager, but I love this job, and I always really thought about, what am I going to learn next? That's the only thing I focused on. What am I going to learn next? Or what do I want to learn next? And I wanted to make sure I was at least a little bit scared, because to me, being afraid is a lead indicator for learning. And then every new job I would take, I would ask people, what is the specific reason you want me for this role? And if I did not hear one of my two towering strengths, I did not take it. Because you're going to go into a scary situation and I want to rely on a strength while I'm learning. And so as long as those three things happened, I did it. And I said no to a lot of stuff. Like Doug Baker, who used to be the CEO at EcoLab, claimed on stage in front of a lot of people that he tried to promote me multiple times. I was wholly unaware that that was happening, but I knew those jobs weren't the right jobs for me. And so you kind of, I think, also have an inner steel because there's a lot of chatter that, especially in a big corporation where people are like, oh my God, that was career suicide. Why are they doing, that doesn't make any sense. And you just gotta like ignore all that noise. And just kind of stick to it. So
The juggling balls. That's good. I love that.
I might have broken a few balls over the years, hopefully not, but
you can pay for therapy like the
okay,
rest of
that's
us.
good. Yes. I think for me, and I would say this is kind of a deep question, but I guess number one, I would say, you can do hard things. And so I think there's going to be lots of ups and downs, no matter what your career is or personally or professionally. And, I know there's a woman, Angela Duckworth, that writes about grit. Some of you guys may have read that, and resilience. And so I think being able to just have the confidence to take a new role, or, for me, I moved to Nashville when my kids were little, and that wasn't too bad because they were young. But then when I moved back, we moved to Atlanta for a year, and all my kids hated it, but it was the right thing to do at the time for my job. But then I said, this isn't working for me. So and that led me to Winnebago Industries, which has turned out to be a great opportunity. So I think just having the open mind to kind of put yourself out there. I think we tend to get comfortable in our roles or in things that we know, but you ultimately own your career. And again, this is getting a little philosophical, and you own your happiness. So if you're not happy personally or professionally, which when we were in Atlanta, for us, we weren't happy. So we decided we got to do something different. But that takes kind of the grit and resilience to be willing to, put yourself out there and look for the next new thing. And so I guess that's probably what's guided me. And as I look back over my career, the fact that I have worked in different industries and different companies and different cities and has just broadened my perspective so much. And I mean, I love General Mills, like we were just talking about, but I think as I look at the things I did after that, it's totally kind of transformed how I think about the world. So I guess kind of owning your career and having the confidence to do hard things are probably the principles that I would point to. It's hard with the family. I mean, my husband's always been a great partner to me with kids, and he worked from home for a lot of years, even when I was in the office before COVID time. So I was lucky to have him as well. That probably enabled things. But anyway, nonetheless, that would be my advice.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. The blessings of other people in your lives, the spouses, keep you balanced. Another question from the audience. Anyone? Back, center. Microphone's going to get you a few minutes to get there. So that means I have to dance while that happens or make fun of someone in the audience, which I will not do. I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Just one question. If your career journey was a music album, what is going to be the album title? One. Secondly, what is going to be the leading track we should all look out for?
You got that one, girl. He said it really quietly. He said, "This one's for you, Amber."
And album.
She turns her
You know what? I guess I would probably say it would have to be like a mixtape, right? I can't. Maybe that's a good answer. It can't just be one genre or one artist. I think it would be a mixtape with everything from rap to R&B to pop to all kinds of different stuff. Because I think I enjoy a lot of things in life, and I think my career I've tried to do several things. The track that I used to listen to kind of back in the day was Bob Seger, Against the Wind. Speaking of you can do hard things. I think that was on the Forrest Gump soundtrack, which came out when I was in high school. I'm really dating myself here. But that was like one of my, like, if times are tough, like put that on. And I felt like powerful when I listened to that. So.
The mixtape also dated you a bit there too.
I know. Nobody even knows what a mixtape is. That's not,
Sometimes they don't. The younger ones don't know this stuff.
hey, nostalgia is back. Like
It is.
like,
Yeah, they should. They should know it. We had Kathy Ireland on, and they're like, "I don't know who Kathy Ireland is." I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me? What's wrong?"
Yeah, well, yeah, I had to explain to my kids why we say hang up the phone, and that was a moment. Um, like, oh, I'm gonna. I agree. There's not one album. There just isn't. And it's funny. My kids say they're like, "Mom, your life's like a musical." Because this is probably more than you want to know. I sing my life, like all the time. Like even when I was giving birth, they each know what song they were born to. Hard Day's Night, Just Breathe. Lulu, of course, is Walking on Sunshine, and if you met her, you'd be like, "Of course, of course." But I would say for me, and maybe it's why I pick it as my walk-up music when I have a speech. I always do "Let's Get It Started." Because it's like, you know what? We're pretty darn blessed that we get to do the work we get to do. And it's like, okay, let's do this thing. And you know, I always like the Black Eyed Peas. So there you go.
That's an exceptional answer. I love that. Question? Yes.
Hi, thank you. In this media saturated environment, what's the biggest challenge in getting your brand story out there into the world?
Okay. Well, I mean, EcoLab is like this amazing company. I mean, again, I could do EcoLab or Sun Country, but EcoLab is this amazing company that no one has any idea what we do. Okay. So that's like a challenge. I'll take any avenue that gets to any kind of key decision maker. One of the things that even Kelly back there helped us do really well is because we're B2B, you would think going after CEOs would be targeted. It is an incredibly expensive group of people to go after, and you really don't know who's reading it, right? Because they all have like 5 people who sift through their emails and different things. And so we actually did an initiative called EcoLab Water for Climate, where we did account-based marketing. But what we did is we said, if as a business, what are the 19 companies we want to close in the next 2 years? And we said, we need these 3 people at the company: chairperson of the board, the CEO, and the CSO. And we could track how much, and then we could go to the Salesforce and be like, oh my God, we got a lot of hits at this customer or whatever it was. Okay, cost per impression was higher, lower than going after all the CEOs, and we know we're getting to them. I also think, and this is going to date me a little bit, I feel like out of home is like super underutilized. It can be wasteful, but it can be really good when it's in the right spot. And for those of you who have ever been to Cannes Advertising, Festival, I think it's amazing. The number one vehicle that you see at Cannes is out of home. And yet, we show ads. And so I do think there's media saturation, but I also think our ability to see on the back end what's really happening and what's working has also amped up. So it allows you to pivot. It also, back to this idea of space, like when we did the account-based marketing, it was a test. Right? It's like there was space to play. We knew what I'm always like tried and true and a little of what's new. And then align what those percentages are given your business performance. Sometimes it's 50-50. Sometimes it's 80-20. And then let the team just come up with some interesting, half of them aren't going to work, but you might get, like we also used Uber Black. Do you remember that, Kelly? And we're like, that is totally not going to work. We had all these CEOs landing at World Water and we're like, these people have drivers. That worked like nobody's business. We got so much reposts on that. And that came from the agency. And we're just like, it's not that expensive. Let's just let them try it. And so I think you kind of learn through doing. That's a long answer to that's like, if I could answer that, I would, be on 18 boards.
I mean, you said media saturation, and I think you hit on it because there's so much coming at you all the time, and it's so short, and just trying to like buy eyeballs, which I think is kind of how it used to work back in the day. It isn't anymore, but I still think that great storytelling and great that people are interested in. And I'm fortunate to work on brands hey, I've sold tires. Okay, that's a grudge purchase. People are not, there's only a small subset of people passionate about tires, but people are super passionate about RVs and boats. And so if we can't tell great stories and get our ambassadors and influencers and other people to tell great stories about the product, then we're missing the opportunity. And even in tires, we partnered. I had a pretty significant budget then, but like even things we did with the Olympics and talking about, we were an Olympic sponsor and talking about clutch performance and the performance of athletes and the performance of our tires when it mattered most. And, that went all the way through to the Paralympics where we actually made wheelchair tires. And so that was like a great opportunity for brand storytelling. That's on a huge, expensive stage, but you can do that on a small stage with a single influencer as well. I mean, when I had ball mason jars, it was COVID and we had been like declining because nobody cans anymore, right? And then COVID, everybody started wanting to cook and bake at home. And then there's lots of other uses for ball jars. And so we didn't have product. People were selling counterfeit product and lids from China that didn't work. And we were getting all these consumer complaints. And the brand was in a really tenuous position because our supply chain wasn't set up for it. But we launched a campaign actually to support small businesses called Ball Made for More. And the idea was we had a lot of small businesses like people that make desserts or honey or soap, and they actually use our jars in their business. And they were out of business during this time when we didn't have any product. So we did grants to these small businesses, and we got so much positive press to help reframe the narrative and counteract the negativity. So I think just and it wasn't a huge investment on our part. So that's a good example of like, if you've got a great story, I think you could still make a big impact, even in a very challenging environment. So we need agency partners and lots of creativity and people to help us think of those things.
Love
But I
that.
think that's still, no matter what the media environment is, I think that's critically important.
Plus counterfeit ball jar cover. I mean, like, what on earth is going on in the world when people are counterfeiting? Like, really?
I mean, COVID was a dark day for all of us. Did not bring out
you
the
were in the
best.
middle
Yeah.
of that, no doubt. We can't even really bring that up around you. This probably causes hives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a tough time.
Yeah, we don't need to go there. We are at the end of our time period here. Thank you all for doing this, and thank you both for coming and participating. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I want to make sure you know about a couple of things. One, the posters over there, this are our 25th anniversary posters. Please buy one on the way by, talk to Brandon, or cards. We'd love to sell those. I mean, and he's a good looking man sitting over there waiting for you to buy a poster. Please buy a poster from him. And then our next event, speaking of storytelling, that was a perfect, I thought you were like segueing just for me, but it wasn't, because I don't know you know this. We have Patrice. She's a former producer for the Today Show. She's going to be on with Heather, and Heather is actually here tonight from Aveda. And that's our pairing. There she is. We are going to have those two on the stage next month, May 15th. So be sure to sign up. It's available. Thank you all again for hanging out with us, and for you two for an amazing inspired show. That was cool. Thank you.